again, ladies and gentlemen of the SeemsGoodMagic community. Dave here again, and we're going to finish up our 9-game friendly sealed league. For those who missed last time, we piloted our black-green Delirium deck to a 2-1 record in Stage 2, bringing our overall record up to 4-2. I've got the pack contents that we opened over here, opening packs so you don't have to. And we're going to go through a couple of quick updates and look at another deck to see if there's anything else that we want to play, or see if we want to stick with the black-green and just upgrade it with the cards that we opened. I was a big fan of the black-green. In this stage, it felt very consistent to me, and it still had the power of the Mind Rack Demon and Slayer's Plate and things like that. Necropod was also decent for the most part. And it looks like we opened a couple of cards that will just improve the overall consistency of this deck. We do have the Black-Red Madness version still. And this deck was fun. It feels like it would be less consistent. And I don't think we opened a bunch of cards that are great for it. I think we only opened one in the deadweight. This is a very combo-y deck with the Aristocrat Skeleton and then the Bloodseeker Madness combos. And we're playing some not-so-great cards with Convicted Killer and probably Pale Rider as well. But I did enjoy this deck. I just think as of the end of the last stage, the black-green deck felt a little more consistent to me after playing with it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at upgrades that we have here and look at the cards that we opened. So I've got the pack over here. Lucky us, we've opened Nahiri and she's gone up in value since I opened her, so I'm pretty happy about that. Obviously can't play it in this version, but maybe we could splash it in the black-red deck. We do have fixing in the form of a Warped Landscape. So we could play, like plains and a landscape and kind of call it a day if we're going to splash Nahiri. We opened a Deadweight, which I'm very interested in playing, so I'm going to bring that over here. And we opened a Hinterland Logger, which I'm also very interested in playing, so I'll bring that over here. And we opened another Dire Swine, which, whatever, I have one, and a Necropod, which is better. And then somebody also suggested that maybe in this deck I should not be playing Twins, and I should be playing Ghoulsteed instead. And upon further reflection, I 100% agree with them. So this would give us the advantage of having a discard outlet to Murderous Compulsion or Giss's Bidding, potentially. And also an outlet to get Delirium from Mind Rack Demon if we really need to. So I'm gonna consider that, or not even consider it. I'm just gonna do it. So I think these are the 3 cards that I would bring in, and then I was also looking at it before I started recording here, and I'm also considering bringing in the Intrepid Provisioner over maybe a Giss's Bidding or a Farbog Revenant, and I'll explain my reasoning here in a second. So I'm gonna put that to the side. So let's start with this. So first upgrade, Deadweight upgrades Confront the Unknown. I'm 100% okay with that. The only downside of this is Confront the Unknown is an instant for Delirium purposes, making Mind Rack Demon to kind of less of a downside. But Confront with just a Bioware Courier is really not great. Deadweight is just something that I want to be casting pretty much the entire game. It kills things early. It has utility against... it has late game utility against things like Duskwatch Recruiters or things like that that have late game value. You can still get a snap off a Deadweight on them fairly easily. There's a lot of X2s that I want to kill mid to late game as well as early. Hinterland Logger is going to come in, and I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cut Relentless Dead from this deck. The double black is very tough in this deck. We're heavy green on the 2-drop spot, and Relentless Dead obviously is better early. The earlier you can cast it, the more likely it is to get in for points of damage before it gets stonewalled, essentially, and then just becomes a blocker that you can loop. And the double black plus the black to return it is really tough when I only have 3 or 4 black sources on the board. So I think I'm going to upgrade, quote upgrade, it's more of a side grade. I really do like Relentless Dead. I think it just needs to be in a black heavy deck for the Hinterland Logger. Hinterland Logger is a little easier to cast, and it plays well with the Pacifists and the Slayer's Plate and things like that. So then obviously the other cut that we talked about is the Twins for the Ghoulsteed, so I'm going to do that. Now my only other consideration here is to bring in the Intrepid Provisioner over the Giss's Bidding or the Farbog Revenant. I would bring it in over the Revenant because it has some amount of human combos, but also the Slayer Plate combo. It has Trample. Slayer's Plate has huge power. That's very relevant. It also gets in the extra couple of points of damage, turns your Stoic Builder into a reasonable attacker for a turn. That being said, Farbog Revenant is cheaper. But if we're going to start cutting a little bit of black, or not be cutting a little bit of black, but you know, remain with the, what do we have, 7 black sources plus a warp landscape plus a death cap cultivator, I guess. Intrepid Provisioner might be easier to cast. Now, the opposite argument of that is, for Giss's Bidding, is it's double black. We have really no discard outlet except for the Ghoulsteed now. If I'm going to bring in the Provisioner, I think it's for one of those 2 cards. Everything else, I think I like even the Autumnal Gloom. So Giss's Bidding's harder to hard cast, obviously. But it has the upside of being a sorcery, which helps Delirium for a Mind Rack Demon. We have 2 enchantments, 3 sorceries, and then a bunch of creatures in 1 instant. So it's going to be easy to get a creature, easy to get a land, potentially. Easy to get an enchantment or a sorcery, or an instant. I think it's easy to get 2 of those 3, and Giss's Bidding obviously helps that. So I think if I am going to cut something, I'm probably going to cut something for the Revenant and just suck it up that Giss's Bidding is going to be harder to cast. And we can bring Farby Revenant in if the lifelink is relevant, so I think I'm gonna do that. We have a lot of 2-drops that are basically 3-drops. Like, I like Hinterland Logger. If I'm playing it on 3, I don't think it's a big deal, just because it has so much upside, and same with the Quilled Wolf. So I don't mind not having a bunch of 3-drops, and more 2-drops instead. Anyway, I'm gonna save this real quick. And then out of the board, we have a Scavenger for defensive decks, or for if we need a defensive deck, sorry. We have Root Out, obviously. We can bring in a Confront if we need to, if we need that extra combat trick. Revenant, obviously, if we want to, again, get a little more defensive. Same with the Twins, a little more defensive. Relentless Dead if the game's going to go long, but I think at that point I'd probably just, you know, side all of this stuff in and then not play the Relentless Dead. And Grotesque Mutation if we need a combat trick that gains us life. Plus maybe Merciless Resolve against sleep paralyses and lots of removal or something like that. So our sideboard's pretty good here. Big fan of this deck. So let's look at the Black Red Madness version very quickly here. I like to splash Nahiri, so I'm going to bring her over here. And then the only other cards that I opened are Deadweight and Ember-Eye Wolf. So Ember-Eye Wolf I think is going to upgrade the Pale Rider. The more that I play with this card, the more that I don't like it. And Ember-Eye Wolf pumped is basically Pale Rider anyway. And unless I'm casting Pale Rider on turn 5, and then hasting in like a Youths or playing a Twins or something like that, I'm really not getting the discard value off of it. So I would do that for sure. And then Deadweight comes in. The problem is here is I don't know what Deadweight replaces. It definitely replaces, you know, something. I think it's an upgrade over a lot of this stuff. I'm just not sure what it is. And, you know, maybe it's something like the Revenant or something like that. Actually, it's probably just the Revenant. I'm coming down on Revenant. At first, I was, you know, pretty high on Revenant, and then, you know, it's just kind of whatever. The problem here is then we're starting to not really run out of creatures. I guess we still have 15 if you count Giss's Bidding. But Slayer's Plate, you know, I think Slayer's Plate is less impressive in this deck than it is in the black-green deck, but I definitely want to play it here. The problem I have with this deck is I'm playing cards like Convicted Killer, which I'm not a big fan of, and I was playing the Pale Rider, and I guess those are really the only 2. Everything else is fine. Now Vampire Noble I'm not a big fan of, but I'm playing it for the Aristocrat shenanigans, and we needed a 3-drop in this deck too. And then I want to get Nahiri in here somewhere. So Nahiri replaces, you know, definitely not a creature, definitely want to replace a spell. So like maybe like an Uncaged Fury or Spiteful Motives. Probably Spiteful Motives. I like Uncaged Fury in this version of the deck. Maybe I'm wrong. They both kind of serve the same purpose. You know, they're both used as a removal or to get in a bunch of extra damage. This finishes games, this finishes creatures, and makes an kind of a must answer. Yeah. Let's probably cut the Uncaged Fury. This is wrong. I'm not really interested in playing this version. I'm just building it kind of just for demonstration purposes here. And then we need to splash. So, and this is also a problem with the deck, is we've got double black, double red, potentially double red if we don't have a Ravenous Bloodseeker on the board. And if we're going to splash Nahiri, you know, we want, I want a plains at least, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're 8, you know, excuse me. Probably want to lean closer to the black than the red, so we cut a mountain. And the mana here just doesn't feel good. I think it's really taken away from what the deck is doing, which is trying to combo off consistently, and I think that's not what this deck wanted to do originally. So I'm gonna save this. We can come back to it maybe between rounds. If I feel like I want to move into it, I will adjust it and then just kind of explain my adjustments as I'm playing. And we're going to ignore the spells deck here. Back to the stuff deck or the delirium deck. I just want to do a quick mana count here. So we've got 9 and 7. Okay, which is fine. I don't want to go less than 7 swamps. And we've got a Warp Landscape, plus a Deathcap Cultivator, plus a Stoic Builder. Now, I was considering playing 18 lands in this deck. 17 Warp Landscape to get an extra black source if we need it. But then I remember that I had the Deathcap Cultivator and the Stoic Builder. So I'm going to count, like, basically this is like 3/4 of a land, and this is like 1/4 of a land. So it feels like I'm playing 18 lands anyway, because I do have some amount of ways to get lands in the yard to make Stoic Builder, retrieve a land, and then the times that I don't, I might have a Deathcap Cultivator in play. So I don't think I need to play 18 lands with this version. All right. And then the other thing that I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to look at the red-green deck. Somebody in chat suggested that maybe there was a red-green deck that we could look at here. So we're going to look at that super quickly. See if there's any truth to this. So Neonate doesn't go in that deck. It could, but I'm not going to bring the Bloodseeker in because I don't have a lot of madness in red. Kindred is pretty good. Excuse me. Playing Uncaged Fury, Fiery Temper, obviously. Spiteful Motive, sure. Arsonist, yes. Probably not the Ashes because we have a Burn from Within. And then the Youths, like, I might need it, but I don't want to play it. We've got an Aim High, Cultivator, a bunch of Wolves, a bunch more Wolves, Rabid Bite, not playing the Gloom, obviously, Byway Courier. Here we get to play Howlpack Resurgence, which is the main upside of playing this version of the deck. Stoic Builder doesn't do anything. We have no real way to get lands into our yard with this. We got an Intrepid Provisioner, which seems fine, and then, our choice of, I'll play Slayer's Plate, Neglected Heirloom is probably a must. And we get our choice of, like, Watcher in the Web or Dire Swine or Nahiri or something like that. So let's do one of those and Nahiri. So a couple of cuts here to make. Youth probably doesn't make it. I think it's hard to cast on turn 5 without discarding it. And if you're not playing it on turn 3 or turn 4, I don't think it's as good as like a Watcher in the Web. Maybe it replaces a Dire Swine, who knows. And then I still have like one more cut, and I definitely want to play at least 17 lands again because we're splashing. And maybe even 18 lands, although we do have the Deathcap Cultivator, so maybe we don't need to because Slayer's Plate is very expensive to equip and move around and stuff. So we probably don't play something. Again, we probably make the decision between Uncaged Fury or Spiteful Motive, so cut the Fury. This deck feels very light on creatures. I'm just going to save it real quick compared to the black-green deck. So we have 15 creatures, 16 creatures if you count Giss's Bidding, essentially. 17 creatures if you count the Gloom. So we have a very good amount of creatures in this deck, making Slayer's Plate obviously incredible. This deck, however, feels like it has a lot of things to do that aren't creatures, that require creatures. Aim High, Rabid Bite, Heirloom, Slayer's Plate, Howlpack Resurgence, Spiteful Motives. So if we have trouble sticking creatures, this deck falls apart. And with only 14 creatures, there's a lot of times we'll go 2-drop and it gets removed, and we'll go 3-drop and it gets removed, and then, we're stuck with an Heirloom or a Slayer's Plate that we can't do anything with. Now, obviously, Nahiri is removal, so we can't really... But she's on the splash, so it's really tough to count her, as a way to get out of it, or, a way to stabilize the board. And we're also going to want things to protect her. Without a lot of creatures, she's really tough to protect. She'll come down, she'll kill something, she'll die. Which is fine. I mean, it's a 4-mana, basically a 4-mana Angelic Purge that you only play on the splash. So... Well, I can appreciate that there might be a deck here. I think the consistency, I'm having trouble seeing where the consistency comes from compared to the black-green version of the deck. So I'm sold on the black-green version. We're going to play it. And we will see you back here for round 7 of our Friendly Sealed League. Thanks for watching.